What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I've got another very important AMC update to bring all of you this afternoon. So what we're going to be covering in this update is something that has kind of been unraveling over the last 24 hours. We have two things to really talk about, two situations in terms of I've seen some FUD being spread around the internet that the shorts are starting to cover their position. Now, we do have something very, very strange happening with Ortex that I want to go over in terms of the exchange reported short interest, what we saw the estimates were at earlier, and what the estimates are back up to at the current time. And we are going to be covering a little bit of this iceberg research situation, if they are even a real company, because I know there's some DD that says they are absolutely not. Now, in addition to this, we also have to talk about the option chain for this week. There has been a lot of gambling going on, and I just want everybody to fully know the risk and exactly what is going on. There is a potential for a mini gamma squeeze that I want to point out to you guys, but we are going to need to see the price movement to the upside in order to trigger that buying from those market makers. Now, again, as always, we do need to talk about some global political events, so we are going to talk about this debt ceiling situation as well. So before we get into all of that information, if you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provide for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I know a lot of the AMC creators have been noticing some comments from people saying that a lot of our older videos are being showed and our newer videos are unable to be found. So it doesn't have to be on my videos if you guys don't want to, but for your favorite creators, make sure you guys are engaging, leaving a like or a comment on those videos to make sure that that information that we all are trying to share is getting out there. So at the current time that I'm recording, AMC is trading at $36.80, down about 1.2% on the day. Now, there are a lot of different global economic events happening that are affecting the broad markets, which has been a common theme that we have been noticing over the last couple of weeks. There are a lot of things unraveling: Evergrande, inflation, jobs numbers, employment number. It's a lot. We have the debt ceiling situation. We have the government shutdown situation. There's been a lot of things that have been going on, and it's really been affecting the markets. Now, when we come over to Ortex right here, this is where it gets interesting. So we see the utilization 86.52. It is down slightly, but we see that yesterday we saw that the short percentage of the free flow, according to what the exchange was reporting, fell from 18.99% down to 17.8%. Now, that's not a very significant decrease. And as we all know, there are many different ways for these institutions to not only hide their short interest, but to enter short positions that are not going to show up on this data. So again, when we're thinking about Ortex, as we always say, we are just looking at 85% of the total market data, and most likely what we have to look at with these numbers is that they are just a baseline bare minimum of what the actual short interest could potentially be. Now, we did see this estimated short interest as a percentage of the free float go all the way as low as 17% today, but now miraculously it is back up to 20.45%. Now, if I were to speculate, this is a glitch, because when we look at the estimated percentage of the free float, and we're looking at the exchange reported short interest when these numbers were released, there is a slight discrepancy, and Ortex has updated some of these numbers. So there is a little bit of a glitch going on right here. But again, the fact that the exchange reported short interest has fallen slightly doesn't really mean a whole lot. Now, when we come over to this iceberg research situation, who cares about these people? Like, honestly, who cares that they are coming out and saying that they made 30% on their short position? Good for them. What I have to say to this is iceberg is creating and setting a very good example for their peers who also have short positions on AMC. If those different institutions could really follow iceberg research's example, we would get this situation over and done with very quickly. The other thing that we need to mention about this situation as well is, assuming that iceberg research is actually a real company that did have a short position on AMC, we do have to make that assumption. If they are covering their shorts at these levels right now, what does that tell us? Well, they obviously don't see that much more downside in the short term. And what that would mean is that we are most likely going to see some upside in the short term. So the fact that they are not still holding this open short position does tell us that iceberg research has essentially just flipped to a bullish outlook. Like, this whole tweet right here just doesn't make a lot of sense at all. Now, when we talk about this whole gamma squeeze situation and the option chain, this is what I want to bring up. So when we're looking at this monthly options expiration date, remember, the highest strike for this week is $95, but typically when we see these expiration dates, the weeklies and the monthlies, we see these strikes go all the way out to $145 a share. So most likely the money that is being spent on options this week are more condensed into a smaller amount of strikes, and they are less spread out, which leads the way to potentially more hedging from these market makers as we see these price movements to the upside and downside. But again, we would need to see some aggressive buying or selling anyway in order to trigger some of that hedging from these market makers. But what I want to point out is that yesterday, this out of the money call number right here was around 206,000. Today, it has jumped up to 264,000 contracts. And that's just out of the money in terms of the open interest. And the in the money calls really have not made much of a change. We see that there's less out of the money puts, but there are more in the money puts at the current time, meaning the hedging that the market makers would do right now is net short. Because when you hedge these sold puts, you go out into the market and short direct shares, or you buy offsetting contracts in order to efficiently delta hedge. But what I really want to talk about in terms of the option chain right now is I want to say some words of caution. When we come over to this option chain right now, remember how we were talking about some of these being more condensed. Now, we do see that at 40 and 41, there is a significant amount of contracts right here. And leading up to that, if we were to see us cross that $41 range, we would end up seeing some buying pressure from these market makers. But then we see 45. And coming down even further, the vast majority of these contracts are heavily concentrated at $60 or above. We see at 60, 20,000, then at 70, 11,000, 14,000, 11,000, and then 35,000 at this $95 strike. So if you want to trade options on AMC, again, it is your money. You can do whatever you want with it. And nothing I say in these videos is financial advice. You can do whatever you would like with your money. I just want people to be careful. Options are incredibly risky, and I don't want people losing money on these YOLO option trades. Now, if you do know what you're doing and you know the risks, that is perfectly fine as well. But what you do have to think about is that when these deep out of the money options expire worthless every week, it is entirely possible that you are giving liquidity to some of these either market makers or other institutions that could also have short positions on AMC and could be giving them more liquidity. Now, there are a couple of different sides to this argument because AMC is not the only stock with an options chain. If they wanted to sell options and the open interest on AMC's option chain were to significantly decrease, it wouldn't really make that much of a difference because they're going to make the money on some other stock. Now, when we come over to this concept right here, max pain, this is talking about the amount of contracts that are the maximum amount of contracts expiring worthless at a given price. So this hurts options buyers, which is most likely going to be retail investors. So the max pain price for this week is $39 a share. So at this point, with where we're currently trading at, that would help us in getting us up to that max pain level. But we have seen the max pain price essentially be $38 to $40 a share over the last couple of weeks, and we really haven't been able to get out of that range. Now, when we talk about what is going on with the overall global economy, we have a lot of things that we need to go over. So the first thing that I want to briefly mention is this Fed tapering in November. So what Jerome Powell had said the last time that we heard from him were that the September employment numbers were going to be essentially the telltale sign if they were going to be tapering the asset purchases in November. Those numbers came in much lower than expected, and that signifies that we are not having as much economic growth as we would like to. So it is becoming less likely that we are going to see that taper in November, but we are going to have to wait and see. When the Fed does announce that taper, we could see some market volatility. But again, it is going to be healthy for our markets over the long term. Now, when we come over here and talk about this debt ceiling situation, so the House is supposed to vote on this today. Most likely by October 18th, they are going to figure this out because the president has said, if the House passes it, I am going to sign this into action as well, and we are going to kick this can down the road to December. Now, it is a short-term solution, and we could see some bullish price movement out of the markets over a couple of days after this news ends up getting released. Eventually, we don't know when this is going to be because they have essentially until October 18th. But again, we are going to have to deal with this situation again in December. So it's really only a short-term kick the can down the road situation, but it also could provide some more bullish sentiment in the markets in the short term. So we are going to have to wait and see what is going on here. We also have Evergrande, that situation still unfolding. They are still missing payments. There is also Fantasia now, another real estate property company in China that is having issues. And in addition to this, there is a third company popping up that I am going to look into a little bit more. But again, with what we're seeing today on the charts for AMC, we're just kind of dealing with all of the overall global economic events that have been going on. This has been a theme that has been happening, and AMC honestly is doing pretty well staying in this upper $35 to $40 range with all of this market volatility and craziness going on. So that is going to wrap up this update on AMC. If you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provided for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video, so you get to stay up to date on all of your favorite stocks, learn about a couple of new ones, and see exactly which options I am trading and which strategies I am using to trade them. So I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.